Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of Unstoppable Mindset. They're all exciting, actually, so I don't know why I said that, but they are, and it's fun to talk about whatever comes along. Today, our guest is Renee Rentmeester. Renee has actually a very interesting story to tell in terms of what she's doing now, what she has done, and so on. And I think it is a fascinating thing that hopefully will fascinate all of you as well. So we are really glad that you're here to listen to it. And Renee, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. Good morning or afternoon to you.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for the honor. I'm truly humbled by you honoring me with the interview. So thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure. And, you know, as usual, this is really more of a conversation than just a plain old interview. So feel free to treat it that way. It's both of us talking to each other. Well, let's start with a little bit about the early Renee, before you did what you've been doing lately and so on. So tell us about you growing up and all that and how you got where you are, as it were.
Well, usually by airplanes.
There you go. Perfect. Come fly with me.
I was born and raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was a daughter. My father is Anthony Rentmeester, my mom Margaret, and dad was a worker in a factory, paper factory, Procter and Gamble. And so, just was born and raised there. And I always wanted to go into TV. And my family were, all farmers and factory workers. So that seemed like sort of a crazy idea to them. Like, what are you talking about? Get real. And so, but I did it anyway. And I worked myself through college, working about 6 jobs. The favorite I like to tell about is working in a pickle factory, working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, putting pickles in jars, one at a time. I don't know if you remember the I Love Lucy episode where they were working in a factory. It was pretty much like that.
Yeah. Well, one at a time. So why one at a time?
Because they were spears, the pickle spears. And you had to put them in there because you had to get them standing nicely next to one another. And in the middle, there would be a half a pickle, half a cucumber that would go in. And then at the end of the whole thing, the machine would cut that middle pickle into more spears. So it was quite a learning experience, and I knew that I wanted to continue with college, so I wasn't working in a pickle factory the rest of my life.
You didn't want to be in that much of a pickle. Oh, I had to say that, didn't I?
It was a dilly of an opportunity.
I get it. Yeah. Well, even so, it's pretty unique that that kind of a job. How did all the pickle juice get into the jars? Did they also put pickle juice in, or did the pickles just leak?
No, incontinent pickles.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there was a in the machine. I'm trying to visualize it now because honestly, I don't remember, but I know that there was a part of the machine that just poured the pickle juice into it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then when you filled a jar, what did you do with the jar?
Well, it was on a moving line. So, a conveyor belt would just take it, and then someone was at the end of the line, and those people would have to put the jars that are already covered into a box.
So did you put pickles in while the jars were moving, or?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you had to work at a decent speed, and they didn't let you slow down.
And they didn't let me talk, which earned me rubber gloves over the head several times from little Katie, the 4-person.
For talking, huh?
That's right, for talking, So, yeah, it was a problem I had. I talked too much.
Yeah. Well, so that was one of your unique jobs in college. What were you majoring in?
Journalism. I have a degree in broadcast journalism from the University of Wisconsin in Eau Claire.
So you did pickles, among other things.
Yes.
You got a degree. Go ahead.
Oh, no, and worked in a disco bar. I thought I'd just throw that out there. So, pretty much you can tell I was also a bouncer at that disco bar.
Wow. And did you throw pickles at people or why, no, I hear you that you had a variety of different kinds of jobs. You just were pretty flexible in that regard, huh?
Yes, well, you know what? I had the goal. I had the goal of working myself through college, and that was the only way I was going to get through. And actually, I was bartending at the bar, but then they found that I could be useful as a as a bouncer as well because guys didn't want to look nasty when I walked up to them and was really nice and said, okay, you have to go now. They couldn't get into a bar brawl with me and look bad in front of the girlfriend. So,
That's pretty cool. What did your parents think of all these jobs?
well, well, mom would, after I got home from the pickle factory, mom would make me take my most of my clothes off in the garage, and she gave me a set of clothes because I smelled so bad. Imagine vinegar times 1,000. And
Yeah.
that's what I smelled like. And then sometimes I had a marketing job in a mall, and I also worked at a TV station as a nighttime receptionist.
Okay. Well, so you did a lot of different things, and that's pretty unique, but it certainly had to broaden your horizons in a lot of different ways, and I can appreciate that. But you graduated then
Mhm.
and had your degree in journalism, and what did you do?
Um, I moved to Tampa first, and I just looked for any kind of job I could get to keep myself going. And one of them was a receptionist at an employment agency. And so, as people would come in to the employment agency, I would ask them if they knew anyone in TV because it's always who you know and all that sort of thing. And I talked to this one gentleman, and he told me, oh, his sister worked at a TV station, which was amazing. And so he gave me someone to contact. By this time, I was in Miami. I was only in Tampa for a year. I sold magazines in Tampa, and then I moved to Miami, and that's when I became the receptionist. And he led me to his sister, who led me to a job at an independent station in Miami. I rode on the back of a motorcycle. I didn't have a car. I rode on the back of a motorcycle to get there, and it rained. It poured. It was Miami
It was
summertime.
Miami, yeah. What made you move to Florida from Wisconsin?
My boyfriend, who I eventually married.
Oh, good. Okay.
No, the usual suspect.
Well, so you moved down there, and so you got a job then through your sister and her contact,
Through the gentleman's sister. Yeah, I don't have a sister.
Or the gentleman's sister. Yeah.
Yeah, through her, and I got to know who she was, and she had been in Miami for a long time, and my boss was pretty amazing, and I was a writer there. I was a writer at the station.
So, what kinds of things did you write for? Or what did you write?
I started out just writing voiceovers, the little voiceovers they used to have between
For
shows.
the commercials, yeah.
Well, not the commercials.
Well, not the commercials, but just
the little voiceovers, like telling you, like you had to make it cutesy and about the show that was coming up next.
Got it.
Like Benson falls down the stairs, whatever, and so it was the little things like that. And then
you never did say something like, "Can you believe that Benson guy fell down those stairs?" Didn't do that, huh?
No,
we liked Benson. We liked Benson. That was a fun show.
I love Benson. Yeah, I don't know how I just thought of that. It just popped into my head.
Well, so you wrote, and then what?
Let's see. There we were an independent station. I was there for 13 years, and it turned into CBS.
Ah,
And I just sat in one place, and so I became an associate producer in news and an assignment editor in news. And that was pretty cool, because as associate producer, you write the news stories.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, you write the news stories. And I remember one of my most memorable news stories that I wrote was about a little boy. He was 3 years old, and he needed a liver. And in Florida, there's a rule against giving livers to certain people of certain ages, like if you're under a certain age and over a certain age. Well, I was on the news desk that day, and the mayor or the governor was doing one of those wonderful luncheons that they do. And I called the father of this little boy, and I said, listen, I'm going to send my photographer over to you. You get over there, and my photographer is going to shoot you and the governor asking to get your son a liver. And it happened. I could have lost my job, but it happened.
So you created the news.
Yes. Well, it helped because 3 days later, the little boy had a liver. So the governor made it happen.
Well, that's cool. And you took the time and the interest in doing that, because that certainly had to be, as you said, a little bit of a challenge, and you could have lost your job over it.
Right. But as your title is Unstoppable Mindset, I don't ever let any of that try and stop me. Like, what's more important, my job or a little boy's life?
Yeah. So did anybody chastise you for it, or because it turned out okay, they let you go?
Great. Yeah, it turned out great. I don't even know if a lot of people knew that my cameraman and I did that. I mean, that we set it up sort of, because, no one ever said anything about it afterwards. So, but it worked for a while, and then the little boy died a couple months later because his body rejected it. But at least he has a chance.
Yeah. What year was that?
Let's see. It was probably late 80s, early 90s.
Okay. So how long did you work at writing the news and being an associate producer and so on?
I was there for that in the news department for 1 year, and then they created a job for me. I was a press and public relations manager, and I went upstairs because the news was downstairs, and I went upstairs, and so I was a spokesperson for the station, and I also produced the PSAs. So that was pretty cool. And in the meantime, I sat on a whole bunch of boards because I dealt with a lot of nonprofits. So that's what I did there. And eventually, 13 years later, and you're like, well, what else can I do? And I started my own advertising and PR company. I left the station, started my own advertising PR company. And then I thought of something, because I had always been with so many different nonprofits, like 6 of them at once. I was on the board. I wanted something for myself, and I wanted something that was a legacy for my family. So I wanted to have a purpose.
Before we get there, I'm just curious. So you were there until after the World Trade Center terrorist attacks, because you were there 13 years. Is that right?
Was I? No.
Okay.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. You were already quite to that. Yeah.
You were gone by then. Because I was going to ask what you did, or what was it like at the station and so on around September 11th, but you were gone by then.
Yeah, I was gone by then. I remember the day. I remember where I was. I remember I had a friend in New York, and I called her to see if she was okay. And I just watched the coverage, and I kept my daughter home that day. My daughter was 9. And I kept her home from school because, you didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no way to know.
No.
Well, you eventually started, as you were saying, something that became very personal to you, a project that you've been doing for quite a while. And it in of itself is an interesting story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. I created Cooking Without Looking, the first TV show that features people who are blind and visually impaired.
Which we really call low vision today, and appropriately so, because when you talk about visually impaired, we shouldn't be compared to people who have eyesight. Just like if you said hearing impaired to a person who was partially deaf, they'd probably deck you, because hearing impaired has they've recognized a way of comparing to people who can hear rather than saying deaf and hard of hearing.
Right, there's a sliding continuum.
And so the whole concept of visually impaired is really unfortunate for two reasons. One, visually, we don't look different just because we're blind or partially. And
No.
why do we deal with it in terms of impaired, saying, well, you're impaired if you can't see fully? And so we're learning to say, as deaf people already have, blind or low vision. But anyway.
Alrighty.
So you started this show.
Right, because TV was what I did. That was my tool. And if you want to change the way people look at people who are blind or low vision, you have to show people, and it's also a way to bridge between the sighted community, the low vision community, the blind community, just to show what is done, because we still have an old mindset. So I did my research, and I went on some blind listservs and learned about blindness from a lot of people. I did not know a blind person. I do not have a relative who is a blind person. It was just something I saw that needed to be done.
And you, of course, are not blind.
No, I am not.
Uh-huh. So you did a lot of research, which is always a great thing to do and a great way to start. And
right.
So when did all this start?
This started in 2001. Ironically, I'm talking to you, and 2001, I was in my first meeting about the show as the Twin Towers were being hit. That's what happened. And we actually took a break from the meeting and saw as the towers were being hit.
Yeah.
So your story is much more compelling, but I remember like, how can this happen? How, we become desensitized to things like this, and it almost seemed like we were watching a movie. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was very surreal to people, because who would have thought somebody would fly airplanes deliberately, airplanes into the World Trade Center, yet that's end of the Pentagon. Right. And of course, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, but that's what happened.
Yep, exactly. So
what was the first meeting about? Was it trying to sell it to a station or planning the program? What was the meeting like? What was it?
It was at Florida International University, the School of Hospitality, because that's where I met a man who was a blind chef. And I met him, and then he was a professor there, and he introduced me to all the people he worked with. And we were looking for anything, like how can we work together, sponsorships, whatever. And that's what we did. That's what we did at first.
Mm-hmm. So when did the show actually start airing, or when did you start producing it?
We started producing and airing it. We started producing it in September of 2005. And after that, it went on in September. And we had a live studio audience at a PBS station in West Palm Beach. And we were on like a couple of seasons. And then after that, we hit the recession at 2009.
Mm-hmm. How come it took like 3.5 years to actually bring the show to fruition, since you had your first meeting in 2001 and it took until 2005 for the show to actually come on?
There are so many moving parts. First, I found a man who I thought we could use as a host, right? And then I had to start going out and selling the program because I was on the board of governors for the National Academy of TV Arts and Sciences. And even they couldn't understand having a show with blind people because they thought blind people only are taught. And a lot of times I still find that out, but they couldn't understand it. So it was a lot of selling on my part just to sell the idea. Then I went to talk to the TV station, and then we had to find a sponsor because we actually had to pay to get it produced on there. And so I produced it. And it was just a lot of explaining to people, making people understand. And once they understood, everybody really loved it and moved on from there.
So you obviously had a lot to go through. At the same time, you had your own advertising agency, you said.
Right, exactly. So a lot of times, whatever costs, I had to pick it up from my advertising company. And because I was, there were like 3 of us there. And PR, I did a lot of PR for people. And I always tried to look at the positive side of it, trying to help people with my PR. You can have negative PR or positive PR. And I always used it for the positive, and as a matter of fact, even just helping people with it.
Do you believe in the comment, there's no such thing really as bad PR, that even bad PR is really good PR?
Well, I to a point, I won't say bad and good. Effective PR, which means that people at least know about you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in some ways, because a lot of times they've done studies that people don't realize how they know about you or how they heard your name, but they just know they know your name. And so yeah, I believe that just getting your name out there, sometimes people don't know how, but they know of you.
And so there's no qualitative factor there. They just know who you are.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So then we continued. We went to many food festivals, and people were just amazed. We were at Macy's. We went to the Boca Raton Wine and Food Festival. We did presentations with our hosts, one of which was totally blind. One was he's nearly blind, nearly total, and the other man who was not all the way blind at all. But we just had a lot of fun going together, driving down the road, hitting these festivals, and showing people what it was like.
So was this before the show actually started airing, or while the show was airing?
Afterwards, because when we hit 2009, we most people didn't have any money to sponsor anymore because of the recession. So we just we had to find other ways to get the word out. And so that's what we did. We went on the road and we went to the festivals and showed people. We pretty much closed down Macy's because the whole store, when they announced that we were going to be there, everyone wanted to see people who were blind, cook and give tips. And that's the cool part about our show, because it actually is a bridge between, the sighted and non-sighted communities. And so we can understand one another. We don't deal in stereotypes or, something from the 1950s. We know what we can do, and we can do anything we want because we have an unstoppable mindset.
So was the show still airing at that time, or were you just doing the festivals?
No, the shows weren't airing, but I had to keep it going. There was no way I was going to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had a purpose and I felt like I had a commitment, because so many people were backing it, at least, supportive, even at least just in their words.
Emotionally.
And I had to keep it going. So I did. We kept it going through. I started a podcast in 2018 where we talk to people. Our motto is changing the way we see blindness. Everyone there is either blind or low vision. And we also, during the pandemic, we started doing it on Zoom as a TV show, which we still do now. And we reached 61 countries.
Tell me, if you would, a little bit about maybe some of the unique recipes or some of the interesting experiences on the show. Love to hear some stories.
Okay. Well, we had South African, it was a sort of a organization like the Lighthouse, and it's a Cape Town Society for the Blind, and we had them on there, and they made South African food, which was like pretty cool. And then we had one gentleman when we were in Palm Beach. It was funny. We had a live studio audience, and he was an elderly gentleman, and he was a nice man, a little crusty, and he was showing us how to make it was like it was called poor man's, I forgot what it was. Anyway, to test the noodles, he actually put his hand in the boiling water. And this was the way he did it. Obviously, I cut it out for the TV crowd, but when I was there, the people were yelling, Renee, stick his hands in the water. It's like, he's 80 years old. He knows what he's doing. This is how he does it, but I won't put it in. I'll edit it out because I don't want little kids watching that. But let's see, what other types of stories? We've had just like a lot of fun. We went to a school in Minnesota, and we taught blind kids how to cook, and we did our own little cooking without looking with them, and that was a lot of fun. We had a special script for them. It's just everything is full of stories. We also have podcasts where we speak to individuals who are blind, visually impaired. They talk about their life as a person who's blind or low vision. Sorry, caught myself. And and then at the end they present a recipe, and all of our recipes that we present is the Cooking Without Looking recipes of the day are submitted to us by blind or low vision people, and they've actually made them themselves. So we know that, that they're good recipes. We don't have any sighted people present them. We just have a lot of fun together. We went to about a year and a half ago, we went to an NFB convention, the Florida NFB, and it was Annette, Alan, and I. Annette and Alan are our hosts, and we just had a great time. It's like we're family. We've been together now the full 22 years. So we get a lot of laughs that way too, because we each have our own personality. Oh,
well, and that's what really makes a long running operation work, when you have a family and people
are able to work together and so on. So what happened at the NFB of Florida convention? What did you guys do?
Well, what we did was we put people on Facebook Live and we had them tell their story. And then we took pictures with them. It's sort of like we were like a famous, quote unquote. And we just had a good time. We had people talk about themselves and what they were doing at the NFB convention. And out of that, we got a sponsorship out of the Florida Division of Blind Services, and they appeared on one of our shows. So that was a good time. It's nice to learn. I mean, every single person has a story that we can learn from. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. Everyone has a story that we can all learn from, and that's what makes us unstoppable. You know, my computer went down, and it was like, okay, well, what's going on here? What's happening with the universe? And my computer went down because I couldn't do any of the shows or the podcasts. And those are really my fun. That's the fun in my life. Been to Disney World plenty of times.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Been on cruises, been to other countries, but this is my fun because I feel like I'm doing something that matters.
So you, I remember in looking at your biography, you mentioned Fred Schroeder, who was the past president of the World Blind Union. Tell me about meeting him and a little about that.
Well, that was wonderful. I actually met him when he was president of the NFB. And we spoke there. And when I met him, I was just in awe. He seemed like a really great person. But when he said all the nice things about us, how he loved the show, I was honored because here's a man who has been all over the place and who is blind and told me that, what we were doing helped. And honestly, when you start something that has never existed, you're sort of sitting there all by yourself going, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And he made me feel like we were doing something that mattered.
Well, today, is the show airing on any TV stations, or is it?
Well, that's what we're working on. We don't necessarily want it to get to TV stations. We want to stream it. So I've been working on getting it either Netflix or the Food Network or something like that. I've been in contact with Rachel Ray's PR people and Stevie Wonder's PR person. She's very nice. So you know what? We're starting the Rebirth round 2, but we keep it going on Zoom. And with Zoom, we can reach people around the world, which is what we've been doing.
Yeah, which absolutely makes sense. Well, how are you being received by Rachel Ray's people, Stevie Wonder, and so on? And kind of what have you had to do to keep them interested and so on?
Well, it's really just keeping on reminding people that we're there. Stevie Wonder's person, the PR person, is Shelley, and she was very, very nice. And so I just keep up, reminding her. Rachel Ray now has left her show, but she's starting something new. So I emailed them, which is very recent, and they're probably on vacation right now. And people, are actually very receptive. We'll see what happens, but just like before, you just have to keep knocking on the doors, chiseling something out, just keeping on trying. That's all you can do.
Have you looked at any of the other Food Network people, any of the other celebrity types, and gotten anywhere with any of them, or have you tried?
No, I really haven't, because I like the philosophy of Rachel Ray, which is similar to what we do. You don't have to be a fancy chef or whatever. It's the home cooking. We have all learned from our parents, grandparents, or whatever, how to cook and survive and have a good time. And I like the way she does it. So our philosophies are similar. In the past, the first host that we had did reach out to one of the people. I don't like the idea of racing or doing things fast and cooking in the kitchen or having it as a contest and getting angry at one another. I don't like that. I like just showing people as they are, because I think that's how we see ourselves. We're not all celebrities. We're just people who are trying to get by and do the best we can.
Well, I would say I think there are places for some kinds of competitions, but I hear what you're saying. I think a lot of the angry, sharp-edged things are really a problem, and they don't really serve a useful purpose. And I've enjoyed a lot of the Food Network, but I like things that are really more fun than getting angry.
Right. And you can have so much fun in the kitchen. Think of it like a lot of times that's the way we get to know our grandparents or our parents, is cooking with them in the kitchen. Like I cooked with my daughter cooked with me from the time she was little. And honestly, I think she's a better cook than me. She's more of a detailed person, where I'm like, you know what? This is my art. I'm just going to throw this in. This sounds like it's going to be good. Just try this, try that. So I'm a little more experimental, but that's the way you get to know your family in a lot of instances. So I like that part.
I don't know. I still think it would be fun to somehow involve Bobby Flay, because he's such a fun guy. And he's an incredibly
fun guy.
He's an incredibly sophisticated guy. He's got an incredible grasp on food preparation, but I bet he would be a fun guy to somehow be involved with.
That, well, you know what? From your lips to God's ears, I'll give that a try. And I'm living in a place of Ray Charles' birthplace. I live in Albany, Georgia. And so I was thinking about reaching out to their foundation to see how we could work together to get something done as well. There's a beautiful monument to Ray Charles. Mm-hmm. It's in the Ray Charles Plaza on the river in Albany. And it turns around, it's bluish, and it turns around and it plays all of his songs in his voice. Mm-hmm. And it's just really beautiful and inspiring and a lot of fun. He sings a lot of the songs my mom used to sing.
Well, I think any place like that where you can get some funding would certainly be a valuable thing. But I think that an innovative, visionary kind of guy like a Bobby Flay might really take an interest in something like this, because it's unique and it's because it's different. And so that's just a thought. That's just a thought,
That's good. It's a seed. I'll work on seeing how I can reach Bobby Flay. No problem.
So how has the show changed over the years, like from the pandemic to now and so on? Is it really still basically the same format? How has it evolved overall?
Well, it really evolved from the way we were doing it before. During the pandemic, we started off with people from the United States, and it evolved into going to like 7 countries and having people from all around the world actually watch us. And so as I wrote in the letter I contacted the CEO, both CEOs, well, one's left now, of Netflix, like, okay, we've planted the seeds all over the world for you. and there's an audience all over the world. And Netflix is one of the most watched shows by people who are most watched streaming services of people who are blind and all over the world. So I had heard that particular CEO was a very nice man, and I've always found a lot of people in TV are really nice. Not the way we look at them in TV shows. They're actually like real human. So,
have you had a response from Netflix yet?
What was that?
Have you had a response from Netflix yet? Have you heard from Netflix?
No, we haven't. His name is Ted Sarandos, and he's the CEO over there. And so that's where I sent it. We'll do Bobby Flay, but it's just, an ongoing process of planting seeds. To get it this far has been pretty amazing because I'm sort of like the Wright brothers with the first airplane. No one could really visualize that. Like, what the heck are you doing? and now we've got it to a point where we can launch it in a bigger platform.
Have you had guests on the show from other countries or just the US?
Oh yeah. We have. We've had 7 countries. They're all blind people from other countries. There was, like I said, South Africa, Guyana, Barbados. Let's see, where else? Trying to think of the ones off the top of my head, but those are just some of them. But everyone can go see them. They're all on our Cooking Without Looking YouTube channel right now. And that's what we're focusing on, just getting the things done and showing people. But yeah, we've had lots of different, Jamaica. We had Jamaica too. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, we've had all these countries. That's really the biggest change that we've had is going and highlighting people from other countries, other people who are blind, cooking their native recipes in other countries.
How many shows have you produced so far?
Wow, that's a good one. I think we were up to like 90 something. I'm not a numbers person, I'm a writer, so but pretty close to around 90. And then the podcasts as well. We just, I've got another podcast to do tomorrow with a lady. So she's making peanut butter cookies.
Ooh.
Yeah, only 3 ingredients, peanut butter cookies. So she's going to talk about her life and Tara Coyne. So that's what we do. So if you ever want to see or go to them, enjoy them, Cooking Without Looking TV show on YouTube.
So how often do you produce a new show?
Once a month, and we're going to start up again since I have my computer. And then the podcasts are like several times a month. Like whoever comes out and wants to do a podcast, we produce their podcast several times a month.
So you've had a number of interesting people on, needless to say. What's your favorite show so far?
Oh, well, that's hard. That's like asking a mother what her favorite child is. Which one is her favorite child? It all depends on who was on there. We had a cute one for Valentine's Day once. We had 2 blind couples on there, and we had a lot of fun with that. That was a cute one. And then I really liked the one from South Africa. That was cool. Maybe it's like a little selfish because I love food from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
You can always see the similarities of the countries of your own. one of my favorite podcasts, we had a couple who was blind, and they came to Miami, and I walked them around Miami and the beaches and everything. And Mike Gravitt and his wife, Jonna, they're a hoot. They're just a hoot to talk to. Let's see, what else? Those are probably my favorites that I can pop off the top of my head. But it's nice to see that people get along and just enjoy themselves. And the blindness is really just a secondary factor. It's living and having fun and enjoying your life.
So when you do the shows like on Zoom and so on, people are actually cooking during the shows?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we have a script, everything.
So how does all that work in terms of the fact that typically if you've got to have a camera and everything so people can see it, how easy is it to set all that up? I mean, from your side, it's great, but at the other end where the people are actually doing the cooking and so on, how does that work?
Oh, it actually works really great. I've only had to edit like one or two of them, just in the tiniest bit. People put their cameras up, either their cameras or their computers, and they are able to cook. And we practice first. We have a rehearsal a couple of days before, and we look to see where their camera is set up. A lot of times we they have a family member or something who sets the camera for them in a certain area. And it goes really, really well because we just do it ahead of time. We show them, we take a look and see how their camera is set up or whether they're using their computer and whatever works for them. But we've had lots of success that way. Not a big deal. People are always excited to be on. They show the tips. We had one young man, Micah. He has it down, the perfect chicken breast, because that's one of those things that can be really, really difficult and sort of dry. You can wear them as a shoe. And he had it down, and that became like pretty popular. And he's this young man, and he just took us through it. He was like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. Very, very lots of attention to detail.
When people are cooking, there's the actual cooking part and there's the preparation part. So do people move their cameras around or do you just have them in one spot? How does all that work?
No, it depends. It really depends on the recipe. We have one lady who has a special syrup, and she was making some food with a special syrup. Oftentimes, if there's like a lot of cutting or preparation or whatever, we have them prep their food ahead of time. And then maybe just, for example, if you need a cup of carrots, chopped carrots, they chop their carrots ahead of time. Just like any other TV show, they chop their carrots ahead of time and then show us just one. But there's not a lot of moving around. Most of them don't move around. We have it worked out. So like, depending on the recipe, we tell them how to position your camera, how to position your computer, and, look this way, to your right, to your left, So it actually hasn't been hard. This is probably the first time I'm thinking about it when you ask me this, Michael.
The reason I ask is I'm just thinking of me. One of my favorite recipes is a recipe that I will do on the grill outside, but the preparation is inside. It's a chicken recipe. It's called chicken diavolo. It's actually a recipe my wife got from Food and Wine, and it's really our favorite recipe. It uses chicken thighs, and the marinade that you put the chicken thighs in is wonderful.
Oh, sounds good.
And it's
just the
really
name
great.
I love, Michael.
And it uses a fair amount of oil, but they're not really oily by the time you're done. But it's a wonderful recipe to do. But just the preparation or doing it and then putting it on the grill is in two different locations. And that's what really prompted me to ask the question. And I'm sure that we could figure out, it would be fun to do it. It's been a while since I've done chicken D, but
I would love to have you on. That would be great because we don't have anything like that. I would have to see you do part of it. Like part of it would be done ahead of time because that's really like a lot of TV shows, the cooking, a lot of things are done partially ahead of time. And then do you have like some sort of a table alongside of you or?
Well, when I do the grilling, everything else is done, and then I take it out, and there's a table on the grill. But it would be fun to think about doing it. The preparation is really creating the marinade,
Sure.
because then the chicken thighs go into the marinade, and then they go onto the grill. So it would be something to explore. And
Yeah, we'd love
the
to have
idea
you.
the idea would be that you create the marinade, put the chicken in it, then let them marinate a while. And so that could be done inside and then just move the camera and everything outside. It might be fun to think about.
Well, you could just you could have, are there like lots of ingredients for the marinade?
Not
Because
too
you could-
many,
You
but
could take those ingredients outside. You can have the chicken and the marinade already done, right?
yeah, you can just take the ingredients outside that would go into the marinade
Sure.
and create a little bit of it. Yeah, that's another way to do it, which also
Yeah.
means when you do that, you get a second batch, which is also good. So that's fine.
That's right. You can
Yeah.
never have too much grilled chicken. That's my
No.
motto.
No. And like anything else, if done right, they come out pretty moist. You don't want to overcook them. It is chicken thighs, so that the marinade does get absorbed a lot better into the thighs than it would into like chicken breasts and so on, which is why thighs are used. But it's a great recipe.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, what's in it? What's in the marinade?
There's rosemary, there is oil. I'm trying to remember some of the other spices. There's
Had
pepper.
me at rosemary.
Yeah, there's
Oh.
pepper. And I have to go back and find the recipe. It's been a while. My wife was ill last year and passed away in November. So frankly, I haven't made it for a while. So I'm going to have to do that. I've been lazy, but that's okay.
We'll give you a reason to make it. I'm sorry to hear about your wife, Michael.
Well, it's okay. We continue to move forward, and she's around watching, so it's okay. So
I'm sure.
I will do it right. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. So it's no problem. Well, so what are your future plans for the show? I know you said you're restarting it and so on. So kind of what are the plans? What do you expect to see happen?
Well, I would like to get some sponsors. I would like to go to more events. The CSUN in California. I'd like to go there and, bring my troops. So I'd like to be more on the ground with people. And I would like to find a resting place for us on a streaming service.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still think of Bobby Flay and Food Network as far as a place to go. I don't know Bobby and all that, but I watch him and he's clearly an innovative, visionary guy. And I would think if anybody would be intrigued, it would be he. Something to think about.
Well, I don't think, I just do. So I'm going to do that. This week I'll get a note off to Bobby. I'll have to research how to get a hold of him. And Rachel Ray knows him. And the thing with her is Rachel has her mother has macular degeneration. So I thought there would be a special in with her as well.
Have you go ahead.
No, go on.
Have you ever had the opportunity to interview Christine Ha, who won the MasterChef?
I did, and she's on our Facebook. I'm sorry, not Facebook. Our YouTube channel. She's on our podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. What did you want to know about Christine?
Well, I was just wondering if you had. I mean, I've met Christine, but that might be a way to get some contacts. But I just was curious if you'd met her and had her on, because she'd be a natural that would be a good person to be on the show.
Yeah, she wanted to be on the podcast, so she was on the podcast. It's quite interesting with her. They thought she had they thought she had multiple sclerosis at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went into blindness, and some of the medications she was taking weren't working. But you can always, as I said, go to our YouTube channel, and she's there.
So tell us, if people want to watch the show, exactly where do they go? Do you have a web address that you can give, or do you have a website they can go to and
we
start
do
from
have
there?
a website. The main place they can go is the Cooking Without Looking YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and then type in Cooking Without Looking. We have a website, which is www.cookingwithoutlooking.tv.wordpress.com. And if that's a lot for you to remember, which it is for me, you can always just Google Cooking Without Looking TV show, and it'll bring it to our web.
Great.
page.
Well, and I assume that if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can go to your website and make contact with you there.
Yes, or we also have a Facebook page, and Cooking Without Looking TV show Facebook page, and they can email me there.
And what is it called?
What was that?
What is the Facebook page called specifically?
The Cooking Without Looking TV show.
Okay, cool. Well, I want to thank you for being on Unstoppable Mindset today. This has been fun. We've done some good cooking talk here, and a body is now getting hungry. So,
well, Michael, okay. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you to invite me over and talk to you. I'm really humbled by you asking me. So thank you so much.
Well, it's been an honor, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you listening out there enjoyed this as well. Go check out Cooking Without Looking in all sorts of places, from YouTube to Facebook and everywhere in between. And go to the website, reach out to Renee, and we will, I'm sure, be hearing more from her as the show progresses. And hopefully we've given her and you some things to think about. Blindness isn't the problem. It's our attitude that is really the issue that we have to address. So really appreciate, Renee, again, you being here. And again, for all of you listening, love to get your feedback and your comments. We would appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening to our podcast. And if you'd like to reach out to me, feel free to do so at michaelhi@accessibe.com, or go to our website, www.michaelhingson.com/podcast. And love to have you rate us there and listen to all of the podcasts that are there. You can binge listen and spend a whole lot of time at it now. So we really appreciate you listening to us and all the wonderful comments that you've gotten. And again, Renee, one last time, thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.